People who live in reality, in other words, present moment awareness, succeed at just about everything they do because they're switched on. People who live in their heads are living in a dream and are therefore actually switched off.
Can you offer your definition of meditation?
Well, it's very simple. Meditation means being present to what is real. There's a whole pile of meditation techniques, but they themselves are techniques. Meditation is simple. Being aware of what is real. And everything you see, and everything you hear, and everything you feel is real, but nothing you think is real. Thoughts aren't real, they're imagined, and imagination is not real. But everything else is real. So meditation is simply being aware of what is real.
And what's the purpose of meditation?
To reclaim reality from the dream you've been lost in since you went to school. Because before you went to school, you lived in reality. You're aware of everything around you. You weren't living in your head yet, thinking about things, analysing things. You're actually present. You were in meditation. And then you went to school and they taught you how to live in your head, the place where everyone suffers. And most people never ever recover from that. So the purpose of meditation is to reclaim reality from the dream that you've been lost in.
And so how can that change someone over the long term of practicing?
The difference between living in your head and living in reality is the difference between failure and success. People who live in reality, in other words, present moment awareness, succeed at just about everything they do because they're switched on. People who live in their heads are living in a dream and are therefore actually switched off. You put someone who's present to reality against someone who's living in their heads, and the one who's present to reality is going to win every day.
So when thoughts come during meditation, how should a seeker or a meditator handle those thoughts that come?
Well, when you're talking about meditation, you're talking about a technique. Probably. Bring your awareness back to what is real. Everything is real except what you think. So just bring your awareness to what is real. Bring your awareness back to a sound or a sight. Bring your awareness back to what is real.
What's the difference between no mind and higher states of consciousness?
I hadn't finished talking. That's okay. I practiced martial arts for about 14 years. If you weren't present, you had your ass kicked. And you had it kicked regularly. You had to be present to win. And the same goes for most sports. You have to be present to win. People who live in their heads don't do very well at sports because they don't see the trouble coming. They're too lost in a dream in their minds. And so I fell in love with present moment awareness when I was a kid. I loved it. I loved being present. I loved riding motorbikes at high speed. I loved fighting. I loved playing sport, rugby, gymnastics, you name it. Anything that was involved in present moment awareness interested me. And I didn't know at the time, because I was in a Roman Catholic boarding school, but that was meditation, being present to reality. And it was brilliant. I chose not to lose that when I left school either. I chose to stay in touch with reality. I could see everyone around me who was living in their heads suffering from emotional dramas, and I simply wasn't willing to go there. I preferred present moment awareness. It's real. And so I teach people how to be real. People think meditation is something to do with spirituality. Bullshit. It's to do with reality. People who are present to what's real are living in reality. People who are present to what's happening in their heads are dreaming their lives away. It's simple. Yes.
What's the difference between no mind and higher states of consciousness?
No difference whatsoever. People go into no mind every night about 5 times a night. It's called deep sleep. Anything else?
The last question is a formal sitting meditation practice needed for higher consciousness and enlightenment?
It is if you're living in your heads. There's no doubt about that. But what's more required is the witness of the mind, the one that just witnesses the mind from a detached, non-judgmental space. Because you have to see what the mind's up to. Because none of us were programmed well. We were programmed by genetics, by our parents, by our schooling, by our peers, by our government, by our church. And a lot of that programming was rubbish. And so if you're witnessing the mind, if you watch the mind from a silent, non-judgmental space, you get to see all the bullshit, which gives you the opportunity to start removing the bullshit. But that's up to you. When I started really examining my mind, the number of belief systems I had that were just rubbish was unbelievable. And it was good to start removing, particularly the limiting belief systems, because I was interested in being successful in the world. If you have belief systems where you think you can't make it, you're just about guaranteed it for yourself. You won't. But it's a belief system that's bullshit. You don't know that to be true. It's just something you tell yourself. Maybe you learnt it at school because you weren't good at something. What a load of rubbish.